Do you remember what it was like to go to McDonald's as a kid? How the place just sort of had this magical vibe to it. It was a fun place to go, fun place to eat. And then in a blink of an eye, they all changed over into these really boring, depressing looking gray boxes. There are still a few of the old ones left, and we're gonna go check out one today. This one is going to be closing very soon and moving to a different location. So we're gonna go see it one last time. Come with me. And here we can see it with the old school mansard roof. Now, all the old McDonald's looked pretty similar to this one, except that they had the red roofs instead of green. So this one's kind of unique in that it has this sort of green colored roof. Really neat. Look at the big golden arches on the window. And we can see just kind of how weathered and faded it looks. Let's just get a look at these golden arches down here. Oh man, this brings me back. I am so sad to see one like this close down. Just look at these old plastic booths. Something about these makes me feel really nostalgic. And here we have some modern art. Very faded looking, something you don't really see at too many fast food restaurants anymore. And so overall, I don't like the maroon color scheme of this place, but I do like the padding on the back of these. Very 90s style. Really have to appreciate seeing something like that. And just look at this old soda fountain. You really don't see these anymore. They've all been replaced with like the Coke Freestyle machines. This old ice machine. Oof. Look at that. I know it's kind of a strange thing, but look at this old hand wipe dispenser. I feel like you don't really see those too often anymore. And if we look back here, we can actually see Ronald McDonald on the mirror. You don't see Ronald McDonald anymore because they actually phased him out of all of their modern advertising. Let's look at some of the details on this. We have these little hamburgers here, and we have a Fry Kid. Very cool. I hope someone saves this before they shut this place down. And here we can see a sign for the new one that they're going to be building. And just look at how exciting that looks. Oh boy. I really miss the way old school restaurants used to look. Fast food restaurants, but just restaurants in general. I feel like as a society, we've just moved towards things being like overly bland and boring and minimalist to the point where they're just kind of harsh and uninviting. And I know McDonald's was sort of, you know, not really seen as like the most luxurious place. It was still fun. It still had character. It still had a vibe. And it's sad to see that stuff like that is just kind of missing from the world today. So seeing another one of these close down, it's sad. So hopefully we can look back on it and just remember. It's really sad to see one of these last remaining old school McDonald's like this close down. There's very few of them left. And if you happen to know where there is one, take the time to go check it out and maybe take some pictures because it's not going to be there much longer. Alright, so the site of the new location for this McDonald's is just down the highway by about 5 minutes, so we're going to go take a drive down there and see what that looks like. Okay, but before we head over there, I noticed something in this little strip mall that this McDonald's is in front of. An old payphone. When was the last time you saw a payphone? And here's another thing that's kind of a relic of the past. A trash can with a built-in ashtray. Just these little things that, they were ubiquitous and now they're all gone just because society has changed as a whole. So it's just, when you see these things, it just kind of sparks the memories of those things, like a payphone or an ashtray, just something simple and mundane, but it has so much nostalgia locked into it. It's really strange. All right, and so it's almost on the exact opposite side of the highway where they're building this new one. Let's go take a look at it. All right, here's where they're building the new McDonald's, and as we can see, it is just your typical modern gray box style McDonald's. And I'm sorry, I think this just looks awful. It has like no character, nothing appealing about it. It's like they took the most boring, bland, sterile concept whatsoever and decided to run with it. And funnily enough, this spot where they're building this used to be an old Burger King. It was one of the old style blue roof Burger Kings, and that closed and sat abandoned for several years. So now their rival McDonald's is taking over their spot. As it just so happens, I took some footage of that particular Burger King when it was still standing. I think this one closed sometime around 2020, and it sat abandoned for a few years. And just get a look at how old school it is inside. Just look at that cool fake wood tile, that front counter with the green tile on it, and just sort of that striped wallpaper. It's just another great example of an old school restaurant, the type that has mostly all disappeared at this point. If you notice up in the corner there, you can see some old track lighting. That's really cool. And you'll notice on the left this really neat frosted glass divider. When was the last time you saw one of those at a restaurant, let alone a Burger King? You might see one in an old diner or something, but definitely not a Burger King. Alright, now let's head back to present day. So the reason why most modern McDonald's have sort of this boring gray box design, back in like the late 90s, early 2000s, McDonald's was getting a lot of backlash that they were marketing unhealthy food to kids. Whether you agree with that or not, I suppose, is a matter of personal opinion. But anyway, there was a lot of backlash. People didn't like Ronald McDonald, the notion that like the Happy Meals were marketing unhealthy food. So they kind of went with this whole rebrand. They took out they got rid of Ronald McDonald and that entire marketing campaign. Redid all their restaurants to like the gray box design, and I think we really lost something interesting, because whether you agree with the idea of it being bad for kids or not, there was still something very nostalgic and lovable about those old school McDonald's, and I think a lot of people feel that way. I also sort of feel like the whole McDonald's rebrand is an example of trying to polish a turd. At the end of the day, McDonald's is still McDonald's. It's still burgers and french fries. Trying to kind of change it into like a higher end, more adult oriented restaurant, I never thought that really fit. So I don't really like going to McDonald's anymore. Their food's not the best for you, so I don't eat there very often. But it was just kind of interesting to see their trajectory, and I like to look back on like sort of the nostalgia that, a lot of us feel about the place growing up. Alright, so while we're on the subject of old school McDonald's, I want to take this time to show you some of the pictures I've taken of some McDonald's I've come across in my past few years of traveling. I believe at this point most of these have either been closed or renovated. First up is one in Middletown, New Jersey, and this looks like the McDonald's we all grew up with that bright red roof. And here we can see a somewhat creepy picture of Ronald McDonald in the window. This location had sort of a golf theme to it. You can see some golf balls on display there. And it even had an old school play place. Check out the wallpaper behind that shoe rack. Here we have one in Wall, New Jersey, and this one was really cool looking on the inside. Just check out those booths. This one also had an old school play place. And here we have Hamburglar, another character that we don't see very often anymore. This one is in Hillsborough, New Jersey, and it has been renovated, unfortunately. But just look at how cool this one looks inside. Check out those nifty modern art paintings they have hanging on the walls. So cool to see stuff like that. You don't see that anymore. Here's a painting of Ronald McDonald's shining his big clown shoe. This one is part of a strip mall in Cedar Knolls, New Jersey, and it's kind of a unique McDonald's. This one had some really cool neon lights, another thing that you just don't see very often anymore, especially not in McDonald's. And here we have more of those really cool modern art paintings. And this last one was in Cooperstown, New Jersey, and I think I made it to this one while they were in the process of renovating it. It was actually rather depressing looking inside. It looked like they had taken most of the color out of it, but you could still see some of the old school charm still peeking through. And I looked over into the play place area, and they were actually in the process of disassembling the whole thing. That's really sad to see. So anyway, I'm going to wrap up the video here. I hope you enjoyed this look at one of the final few old school McDonald's. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will catch you in the next one.